Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Kinetic Impressions Movie News. I'm Arnie.
I'm Andy.
Today we're going to be talking about Creed 3 has finally officially been announced to be directed by Michael B. Jordan. I'm going to read a little bit from an article from Slash Film to introduce the news story. Deadline reports that MGM has slotted Creed 3 for Thanksgiving 2022, and the studio finally provided official confirmation that Jordan will be getting behind the camera for his directing debut on the new movie. Kalen Coogler and Zach Balin will be writing the script, which is based on an outline by original Creed writer-director Ryan Coogler, who no word about whether or not, and also no word on whether or not Sylvester Stallone will return as Rocky Balboa. Quote, this is a quote from Michael B. Jordan himself. Directing has always been an aspiration, but the timing had to be right. Michael B. Jordan said in a statement, Creed 3 is that moment, a time in my life where I've grown more sure of who I am, holding agency in my own story, maturing personally, growing professionally, and learning from the greats like Ryan Coogler, most recently Denzel Washington, and other top-tier directors I respect, all of which sets the table for this moment. This franchise, in particular, the themes of Creed 3 are deeply personal to me. I look forward to sharing the new chapter of Adonis Creed's story with the awesome responsibility of being director and the namesake. All right, Drew. I think we all knew this was going to happen because we've been reporting it and we've been talking about this, and Ryan's been talking about it. Tessa Thompson's been talking about it. So finally, confirmation. Confirmation. Michael B. Jordan is going to direct. There is no word yet on exactly what this is going to be or what kind of story this is going to be. But I kind of like the fact that the Rocky Balboa franchise has been a launching point for actors to enter into directing and to writing and things like that. Just kind of, speaking of how Rocky got into motion first, being a Sylvester Stallone written script. So what do you think, man? I don't know much about the guys who are writing the movie. I didn't know Kalen Coogler was part of this, but he's actually has writing credits on Creed, Fruitvale Station, and Black Panther. And then Zach Balin,
he was also in Fruitvale, as one of the characters.
That kind of makes sense, a lot of nepotism in Hollywood,
But most of his IMDb is assistant to Mr. Coogler.
Yeah.
Which I was oh shit.
Yeah, it's he's bringing his brother in there to mix. And then Zach Balin, I have his IMDb as well. He's written for the Creed. He actually just has announcements for Creed 3 as a writer, and then he also wrote King Richard. King Richard is the project that Denzel Washington is in. That with I think it's Coogler's in it as well, where it's actually about the father of Vanessa and Serena Williams.
Yeah, Venus.
Yeah, and Venus Williams, and it's with I think it's Denzel Smith playing their father, or is it Will Smith? I think it's.
I know Will Smith.
Yeah, you're right. It's Will Smith playing the Venus and Serena Williams' father. I don't know. Where do you think this is gonna go? Because we last left this off, right? It was with, I believe, Adonis was about to have a kid, right?
Yeah.
Am I wrong about that? Yeah, and then he had this whole thing where he had to fight basically for his own pride, and to avenge his father. He had to go into that ring and he had to fight that off. And then I guess this is kind of like a parallel to, Michael's life as well, where he's kind of maturing in his own life as well and doing his own thing. Where do you think it's gonna go, man? It's I feel like it's really up in the air with what it could really be.
I think there's a lot of places we can go with it. Like you mentioned, we still get Keenan Coogler. I think you're absolutely right. It's kind of cool that we passed the mantle. Sylvester Stallone and his thing with Rocky, and now it's kind of passing the mantle where Michael B. Jordan's going to get to make Creed his own little thing as well. I like that whole notion in it, but when you look at the history, I don't know. I don't know how we're gonna go. I don't know what stories left because we kind of skipped. We kind of skipped the Rocky stories that, like, one of my favorite Rocky stories, which I mean, this is all based on, is Rocky 2, where he finds a foe that's his rival, and the rivalry becomes somewhat of like something like a friendship, and that friendship turns into a machine that's unstoppable. And then the next movie, that unstoppable thing gets cut short because of not Adonis, but what's his father's name? Apollo. Sorry, Apollo dying, and that happens because Apollo dies.
Oh yeah, I like that.
So like, if we can do some kind of parallel to that, I think I would love that personally. There's another Rocky movie where he teaches a young protege, and that young protege kind of turns on him. That's one of the most hated Rocky movies to date. And so like, we have already done the Russian thing. We've kind of done the Russian thing, and like, I mean, it was played perfectly. And a lot of big things in, I forget which Rocky it is, but it was like a lot of big things is like, it's not. It's that Rocky. I know Rocky wants to stop because it's actually causing brain damage. It's actually, boxing is a bad sport. Boxing was very ridiculed during those times. And so like, I think that's a big thing where like, do you want more time with your family or do you want more time boxing? And then at the end of the movie, he kind of has to question, well, like, I have to do this for me. And so I think that's another story that could get played out.
Yeah.
I'd really love to see something original played with some of those notes, like kind of those callbacks that I'm saying. Yeah. Those are some of those things that like, I think we could take and like make into a really good script. I think in the hands of these two writers, though, I mean, I know this Zach Balan is a little unproven, but he looks like he has a great career ahead of him already.
He's done a lot of art. He's been in the art department for a bunch of movies.
Yeah, like Dave Chappelle's Block Party, the documentary. Yeah. I saw that on his thing. But with Keenan, I mean, I think those were good scripts that Keenan wrote. So I think it's going to be interesting no matter what. It does scare me that he's not going to be in it, because the how I wanted this franchise to end, Sylvester Stallone not going to be in it. Sorry. Yeah. That was in my head and I didn't say it out loud. It kind of makes me nervous that Sylvester Stallone's not going to be in it. The only reason why is because I want him to go out similar to how in Rocky Mickey goes out. Mickey dies and kind of like, not to avenge his death, but like in the Rocky sense of things, Rocky always has a motivation to get him through the third act. There's always motivation to get him, like at one point, Mickey's dying and Rocky stops training so he can be with Mickey on his deathbed. And that's like a big thing. I think we already played that with Creed and then Sylvester Stallone in the hospital. And the big thing that gets us out of that into the montage, the training montage, which is a big staple in all Rocky films, is Mickey's going to get better. Mickey has a turning point, and he, you think he's going to get better, and then Mickey's like, go beat his ass. And then Rocky's like, okay. And then training montage begins. And so I've always wanted the Rocky series. I knew he wasn't going to be here forever, but I always thought that like with one of these movies, I thought it was going to happen in the last one because they played into it very well. He swapped. And so I thought like the best thing would be, Sylvester Stallone, kind of, his character dying in the movie if he didn't want to do one anymore, and that causing motivation for one last Creed fight.
No, that's all. That stuff is amazing. All that stuff is great.
Sorry, I went on a rant.
No, all that, absolutely. Like the scenarios that you're bringing up are just so in tune with what the actual Rocky franchise is and the themes that it could be. I really like. I like the idea.
Can you tell Rocky?
For sure. No, I like all those ideas. I think one that stood out to me was the one where he's fighting to like keep his family afloat, but then also he's like staying away from his family, so he needs to go back to his family, right? So it's like a juxtaposition of he needs to fight, but he also needs to like spend time with his family. Is it fighting or his family? I like that a lot, and I think that's a mature way of kind of telling the story off, right?
And those are things that like Sylvester Stallone wrote, in the mid '80s, that like are really stories that can just be recreated over and over. And I was just like, dang, man, like that is a timeless. Like if you remake the movie, it's timeless. It's almost timeless. And so, yeah, man. I mean, one day maybe we'll, hopefully we'll get something. I think it's gonna be. I'm hoping it's a good movie. It has the bones. They've already done so much that they've taken the ideas that I thought I had that were good, and they've like, oh yeah, that's a great one. Like when I saw Creed 2, when I saw the preview for Creed 2, I was just like, every Rocky fan's gonna go out and see it, because this is y'all did a perfect callback to the original, and like calling back to the original is what gets the fans in the stands.
For sure.
I have climbed the steps. I have climbed the steps of the film museum. I have put my feet where Rocky has cemented feet where the statue once was, and you could put your shoe next to it. And then his statue got moved down to the bottom of the steps and a little bit to the side. So I have done that. It's cool. And fun fact, there's a Rocky marathon that goes through Philly and ends on that strip where he's like sprinting. Yeah. And then you finish the marathon by climbing the steps and getting to do that, which I think that's like super cool. I think if you're a true Rocky fan, somebody should go do that marathon. That's awesome.
That's incredible. That's a good rec for everybody, man. A good rec, man. Yeah. I wish Michael B. Jordan the absolute best in all this. Kind of harkening back to what you said earlier, I kind of also like the idea of him like building up his own nemesis. That's also like an idea that's really interesting too.
Right. Because the Apollo thing was a good idea.
Yeah.
Building up his own nemesis and then becoming best friends with his nemesis, like lifelong friends with his
Yeah, and then avenging him, and then eventually training his son, and then his son taking over the mantle. I mean, that's just beautiful fucking storytelling and just like real Greek and Roman like stuff.
We can do this forever.
Yeah,
because then whoever takes over the Creed. They'll be directing the next one.
Yeah. Dude, that's so good. I mean, I just hope it's good, man. I hope it's good. I really fucking want to root for Michael B. Jordan, man. And I hope he fucking knocks it out of the park. I think he's ready. I think his path to directing is the path that a lot of actors have had to directing. And I think there's a few examples there that aren't the same, but like, I think it's pretty clear that directors going into and actually directing their own films is a good thing. Most of them do it really well. Obviously the Ben Affleck thing, like he knocks it out of the park almost all the time. He's got maybe one or two stinkers in there for sure. Who else? Robin Williams has done some really good stuff as well.
I mean, we're gonna spin Matt Damon. Like if we're spinning in Ben, even Matt Damon picks his projects very well now.
Yeah, for sure. And I think they both wrote what was that movie back in the day?
Good Will Hunting?
Good Will Hunting, man. They both wrote that. Yeah.
Great movie.
I think I've always had this theory about actors who become directors and why they tend to actually do it really well. It's because as an actor on the set, you are the one person where every single department talks to, and you are affected by every single department. And
side question for you, because I don't know the answer to this. Did they write Good Will Hunting before or after the Kevin Smith movies?
They wrote it before. And it was actually a spy thriller before. And Kevin Smith actually was instrumental in getting that movie made because he worked with Miramax, right? And he had Ben Affleck as like one of his go-to actors for a couple movies.
No,
and
that's
like
what I'm saying. So did those Kevin Smith movies when like Chasing Amy? Did Chasing Amy? I don't know the chronological order. I could look it up, but like
it was Mallrats, then Chasing Amy. I don't know like
where's Goodwill in that?
So I think Ben Affleck and Matt Damon were writing those movies while Ben was like a young heartthrob in Hollywood, and like I think Mallrats was one of his early roles. And so he
already was in Hollywood.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Yeah, because like I just saw Chasing Amy where even Matt Damon's in it. Matt Damon's in it for a second, and I was like, oh,
yeah.
cool.
Yeah. They were buddies for a long time before, and they wrote it together. And then like I think they got notes from somebody, and then like they showed it to Kevin, and then Kevin loved it and showed it to he who shall not be named at Miramax, Weinstein, and they loved it, and like they hooked them together with forget the guy who directed Good Will Hunting. If you look that up, but they actually like gave him the script. He loved it too, and so like that whole project came together
Gus
Van Sant. Yeah. So Gus Van Sant loved it, gave them some notes about rewriting it. They took a year to write it, and then the project came together. And like while they were filming Dogma was when the Oscars was happening, where they were nominated for best screenplay. Wow. And so Kevin Smith actually like walked them to the airport, or like took them to the airport, and like said their goodbyes where they were going to the Oscars while Dogma was being filmed. And it was one of Ben Affleck's like things that he hated, that he never thanked Kevin Smith during the acceptance speech for writing for Good Will Hunting, because Kevin Smith was instrumental in getting that movie made. So yeah, one little bit of trivia there.
Ride to the airport, like I think that would have been funny. You know, like thanks Kevin for giving us a ride to the airport. Like that's it.
Yeah. So those things. So like I really like that's the thing. I think actors, especially big Hollywood pictures and stuff like that, they're really like honed to become directors, because like every department, they are affected and they are in the know of every department. So they understand the animal and the machine, I think, better than a lot of other people on those sets. You know, like it makes sense for like a sound guy. That's kind of how it happens. Production design guy, or you're a sound guy, you eventually become an editor, and then an assistant AD, and then eventually, you know, you become the director. But like you have to go through the path of being an assistant director, because the assistant director is actually the guy on the boots on the ground who really does everything right. They're the one that like make sure the location's good. They make sure that the actors are there. They make sure that all of the departments are talking to each other. And then you become a director. And like the director doesn't really do much on the set besides just to kind of like make sure that the decisions are made on like the costumes, right? The director is basically the guy who, like, everybody, the heads of the department, they just show them the scrapbook, and they're like, yep, that's good. And then make sure that's that color, make sure it's that color, and then make sure we're here. Make sure you find me this kind of place that's that kind of thing. But the assistant director is the one who actually is all like, all right, we got to find this kind of place. Where the fuck is that in the world? You know, and an actor is just the person in the middle of everything, being affected by all of it. So they see all the moving parts. So I think like Michael B. Jordan as an actor in the world, especially with all this talent, he has the fucking like just know-how and the experience to pull this shit off. So I'm excited, and I hope it's good.
Like you said, I mean, he's been around. I mean, being around Ryan and Denzel, and people who are inspirations to him like that, and kind of like, I mean, he hasn't been their assistant, but it seemed, you know, like he has a tight-knit relationship with him. So he's already seen how it's kind of done, and I think he's seen how it's done for, you know, smaller movies like Fruitville Station, I think. And he's seen it for bigger things. He's like, hey, look at us now. We're on, you know, we're doing Black Panther together. We went from no budget to like the entire budget.
All of the budget, the biggest of the budgets.
So like, I think now that, you know, they're making a name for themselves, and I think it's going to be good.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching and listening and doing all the things for us. Please subscribe.
Yeah, tell us what you want to see in the Rocky movie. Maybe I got some of my facts wrong. Maybe y'all remember I think all the Rocky movies have been released this month on HBO Max. So you can watch the whole sequential, like you can watch everyone, even the bad one I mentioned. That name. Do you know what I'm talking about? Have you ever seen that bad one?
I think it's Rocky 3. Is that wrong? Am I wrong about that? I'm not sure which one. I know there is a bad one that everyone talks about. Just like they talk about the bad Superman movie.
Tell us what you want to see, and make a comment. Like, Arnie, you got a little side thing going?
Yep, I got a little channel called The Arnie Diaz Show. Please like and subscribe on that as well. It's available everywhere.
Yeah.
What do we always say, Drew?
Go fucking watch a movie.
Go fucking watch a movie.